Hi guys, welcome back to my channel. I hope you're well today. We are talking about a topic that I'm very interested and passionate in today, and it's about buying luxury handbags as investment and whether you should do it. So I'm going to cover a few different considerations in this video, and then that's more applicable to all kind of luxury brands. And then I'm going to a little bit more into buying Louis Vuitton, Chanel, Hermes, Dior, and Gucci and all that. And obviously I'm not a professional, so this is all my personal experience and my own thoughts that based on my experience for the last 2 years of handbag collecting and buying and reselling, buying from pre-loved market. So again, just my own personal opinions. I would love to hear from you guys as well based on what you think. So introduction. Basically, I think, a lot of people, like I was like that too. So you go into the store, you see something you like and you buy it, right? And that's totally fine, especially Louis Vuitton, Chanel, they come up with new stuff every season, and it's, they always look so glamorous on the shelves. And a lot of people do that, and that's totally fine. I used to do that too, so I purchased most my Louis Vuitton and Prada and all the other pieces like that. I go into a store, I see something I like, and if I think the price is okay, I buy them. Until I got into Chanel, and obviously the price points are like at a different level in a way. And it wasn't so easy to make the decision, so I started looking and researching a little bit about the brand. And when you start researching about Chanel, you will often come across articles that will tell you buying a Chanel is better than buying a house in some cases, or buying Chanel is better than investing money in the bank or putting in a saving account, because the annual increase on these classic pieces is generally between like 5 and 20%. Well, yeah, that return seems to be way better than, any mutual fund or stock that you can put in. However, I mean, if it's that simple, we will all be rich, right? Just buy bags and then resell them. It's not like that. So I'm gonna jump into the considerations I have. First of all, buying and selling bags online it's very, very risky. So we're talking about transaction of, thousands of dollars on just like on the internet between two strangers. And it's a very risky process. And if you're not experienced or knowledgeable about these merchandises or about the seller or the buyer, you can be at great risk, because it's two-sided, right? So the buyer can be getting a bag, that's counterfeit, or, they never even get the bag, or oftentimes it's a counterfeit bag that I've seen mostly being scammed. And then as the seller, you could the buyer can claim they never got it, or they claim they get a counterfeit. And if you use any kind of PayPal insurance, the fund can be canceled right away. Or, they will tell you they will transfer you the fund after you ship the bag, and then it never comes through. There are different type of risk that you can be exposed to as both the buyer and the seller. So I would just caution anyone who's trying to do that. Personally, what I've learned is definitely talk to the buyer or the seller. Don't be afraid of making conversations. I often do video chats, or definitely have just chat through everything. And when I sell or buy, if I do shipping, definitely you need person's name, address, phone number. Like, you have to exchange that information for the minimum security, in my opinion, especially for anything that's a large fund. And personally, as a seller, not everyone would agree with this, but as a seller, I always request for email transfer upfront or a payment plan. So I don't do PayPal insurance, just because, like I said, they could easily make a complaint to PayPal, and then your fund will be frozen, and then you don't get the money and you don't have the bag. So you don't want to be in that type of situation. But again, if you've built a sufficient trust, there is benefit to add that insurance in case, it gets lost in the mail or something got damaged during the shipping. That's another layer of risk, right? It might be nobody's fault that the package got lost or if it gets damaged. So those are all the things that you have to think about and consider when you're making these large purchases online through a secondhand reseller or buying it from a pre-loved market. So risk is definitely a big factor. And if you're someone who worried about those things, I mean, obviously a face-to-face transaction would be great, but then you're limited to who you can buy and sell from. And nowadays, which go into my second point, is the competition out there. Okay, so like everything is basically worldwide now. If you're selling this bag, you're kind of competing with everyone out there who's selling this bag, because everything can be shipped worldwide. And now with Facebook and things like that, there are so many competitive, better deals that you can find out there. I mean, obviously, you know, you might come across from a buyer in your own city who are just looking for the exact bag, but chances that, you know, sometimes it's hard to say, and people tend to browse on the website to look for the better deal, better pricing, and, you know, give you some kind of crazy offer that's just way too low than what you expect. So all that to say is the competition is really, really fierce. If you're only a personal selling your personal collection, you will be competing with those stores that sells vintage and secondhand handbags. And sometimes it's just, you know, why would anyone trust you who might not have a lot of you know, reviews and personal references versus someone who has a reputable store with similar price. So, you know, that's something to consider. I would just say, like, for those consignment stores and resellers, obviously they have to hype up the price to get that, you know, margin of the profit for themselves. So sometimes you are able to compete with the price front, but again, you know, why would they choose you over a consignment store when the price is the same? Another thing in Canada, though, is if you're buying or selling personal item, it's okay, there's no tax. But if you're buying from an actual consignment store, there is a tax on top of it, which is pretty hefty in Canada. So that's a little tiny benefit that you can have as a someone who's selling their own personal merchandises. But again, you know, I would just say even that, you're looking at tons of people out there who might be selling the same bag. So related to this point, I guess, is, you know, if you think, okay, I'm gonna bet my money on the classic flap from Chanel, and this piece is classic, it's not gonna get discontinued, so it will still be around in 10 years, so I'll just buy it, make sure I keep it new in perfect condition. I can easily resell it in 5 years for probably not, if not close, or the more money, and make some money out of it. Well, a lot of people think like that. Okay, so that's exactly why the safer pieces, the more timeless classic pieces that you go forward with, oftentimes there are more choices on the market to be buying secondhand, because a lot of people will think alike. And, you know, if you really look at the secondhand market, this bag, you can find it. It's not hard to find this bag. And the pricing is not more than retail. You can often find close to retail or sometimes less than retail for still very good condition. So you have to think it's not going to really be that different 10 years from now. Even say the price went up to another 20% from today, it still doesn't necessarily mean you will make a lot of money off your bags. So the competition, like I said, that's one thing to consider. The next one is the condition of the bag. So if you are thinking about buying these things as an investment, then when you resell the bag, most of it, I mean, it's basically all depending on the condition of the bag. If it's like new condition, then yeah, you can probably get the money back, or maybe sometimes slightly more, given over time the price will increase. But that means you have put that money away and cannot enjoy the bag for the last 5-10 years. If you start to use the bag and, you know, the conditions start to, like, there's gonna be wear and tears, you might not be able to get a very good price on it. So condition really matters, and then if that's something that you have to worry about when you're using your handbags, I'm not sure if that's really worth your while, right? So you always have to worry about the condition of the bag. You know, buying or selling, it's the same thing. Everyone's looking for the bag that's like new and that can last, especially something for this price. They're looking to be able to use the bag for a long time. So that's just what it is. And so if you say, so like I just mentioned, if I don't want to be safe, let me buy the most rare piece that's like the super hot items right now from Chanel. That should guarantee me to have a better sale down the road. Well, that's not necessarily true either, because it's very, so my next consideration is trend. It's very, very difficult to predict the trending, the fashion trend. You might think you have a very good sense in fashion trends and you're very fashion for, which by all means, but again, when it comes to handbags, sometimes it's really tricky. I mean, for a while, the minis are one of the kind of the entry point handbags for Chanel, and now their price has hyped up a lot. People are paying premium to get the caviar leather minis, and that's been going on for maybe last 2-3 years at least, from what I've seen. Like, the price just keep going up. But again, I don't necessarily think that will last for the next 10 years. I think, again, I'm not professional, and I can't really tell you exactly what's going to be trendy in 10 years. But essentially, without knowing what's going to be still in trend 5-10 years down the road, betting on something that's currently trending or currently seem to be hard to find might not necessarily be a good thing. And same thing that goes to limited edition items. So some people also fall into the trap of, okay, let me get a limited edition Chanel bag that might become a collectible down the road. It might be true, but again, it takes certain luck, or it's not easy to be finding the right buyer for those things when the price is extremely high for those items. So you also have to think about people who are actually searching for things on the pre-loved market. Obviously, either they're collectors, so they're willing to pay $10,000, $20,000 for limited edition pieces, which is rare because they also usually have specific, like, what are they called? They will have their own resources to be getting personal shoppers. Sorry, they will have personal shopper who could secure those items from them. So it's just selling from by yourself might not be as easy. And then if you go with the less trendy pieces, then you're competing with other people. Anyways, all that to say is it's not easy. And it kind of leads into my last point, which is basically, it takes a lot of luck to be able to sell and buy. I think it's a both way thing. So it takes a lot of luck to be selling and buying items, luxury items on the secondhand market. So for myself, I was lucky enough to purchase quite a few vintage pieces, specifically Louis Vuitton pieces, through eBay. And being in Canada, everything that comes in has a duty. Not always, but so oftentimes you will be charged with a duty fee. So, and in the end, the pricing on those bags are not fantastic, but they were pretty good deals. I was able to sell most of those for a tiny profit, or if not for the same amount that I've paid for. I also recently, you guys know, let go quite a few pieces that are quite a few hard to find pieces that I was able to score from Louis Vuitton website. So those ones I didn't lose money. But honestly, at the end of the day, I did not make money out of all my luxury buying and selling. Maybe a little bit. I mean, I was able to get rid of some of my old bags for a huge loss. I probably lost 80% of what I paid for, because for things like MCM, or even Michael Kors, or even Prada bags, I think, like, people are not willing to pay few grand on those bags, even though that's the retail price for those bags. It's just not trendy enough for someone who's looking to buy from pre-loved market. They will be going for your Louis Vuittons, your Chanel's, the more bigger brand name ones. Another thing I've noticed on the pre-loved market, anything with a logo, anything that makes a bag more recognizable, definitely sells better. So for Louis Vuitton pieces, if you're selling monogram pieces, if you're selling their classic lines, your Alma, Speedy, or Noe, those definitely sells better than your seasonal pieces that's hard to tell that's a Louis Vuitton item. Same thing with Chanel. Your Chanel classic flap with a CC turnlock sells way better than your reissue, which is a lot more low-key and subtle. Those don't sell as well on the pre-loved market. I mean, it's pretty logical, given people who are looking on the pre-loved market, they're looking for that you know, I buy from secondhand. I'm totally guilty of this as well. To own something from the fashion house, but that can be recognizable. That's recognizable, right? So all that to say, and which means that some of the other bags won't sell as well. So I'm gonna get into that now. So as I said, I think among all the different popular brand names, Louis Vuitton is definitely the one that sells the best. In my own opinion, they have better vintage shoe. I feel like the vintage quality are just amazing. The canvas are generally in perfect condition. I've never really had any issue with any of the canvas. They are just really well made. So, and another thing is you are able, so anything that you're selling, obviously if they're only a few $100s, they will sell quicker just because people are less concerned about spending that money. They are willing to take that risk. It's easier. All my Louis Vuitton pieces that are posted, they were gone pretty fast. So, and a lot of them are from local, from local buyers. And if you guys know, well, maybe you're new to my channel, but basically where I am located, I don't have any Louis Vuitton, Chanel, or any luxury boutique in my city. So a lot of people, I don't think they really care about luxury. In like, if you walk on the street, it's pretty rare that you'd be seeing a Chanel bag or a Louis Vuitton bag. But again, there are a lot of people who are into this, into collecting. I feel like Louis Vuitton is the one that sells the best, at least locally for myself. Never had a huge issue with selling any of my Louis Vuitton pieces, unless obviously for some of them I'm not willing to let go for the price. You know, for some of them I'd rather be keeping them for the price. So again, so that part can be different based on where you're at. I think the location does matter, but you do have to consider if you're in a bigger city with a lot of, you know, highly dense population and people are you know, willing to pay for these luxury goods, that means there's going to be more competition as well. So just something to consider. And another thing, like I mentioned, people are willing to ship their items now. So it's really, you're competing probably, if anything, at least within Canada, you know, you'd be competing with other people who are also selling their bags. So something to consider. When I get into Chanel, I was thinking the same thing. Okay, if they go up in price 5 to 20% every year, well, I'd better get in now, or the sooner I get in, the better. It is true. Like, I'm not gonna say that's false, because especially for yourself, I mean, if you're totally not even thinking about investing in these things and simply wanting to own the bag for yourself, then by all means, right? Like, buy it whenever you have enough money for it and just go for it. At the same time though, like, you know, you are potentially able to look on the pre-loved market and see what other options are there. And sometimes another big red flag is when the item is priced too low. That means they're generally not authentic. So do consider that as well. So if you are, sorry, so my battery cut off. So if you're thinking of buying I do think buying luxury handbag is still better than buying the mid-range brand, just because at the end of the day, even if you can't make a profit out of these bags, chances are you can probably get a good portion of what you paid for back, which is still more worthwhile than, you know, buying a bag for a few $100s and not able to sell it in the end, right? So there's that consideration as well. But again, not being able to predict the trend for you guys, it's really hard to tell you, you know, which bag you should pick as your first piece of Chanel. So in my opinion, to be safe, the classic lines will never get away. So the discontinued pieces definitely don't sell as well as the reoccurring pieces, the classic pieces. So do put your money in those if you are limited with funds and thinking about potentially reselling one day. So that will be my suggestion for Chanel's. I have not sold any Chanel's yet. I have at one point posted this one, but very briefly, because after a while I just decided I probably want to keep it in this time. But anyways, once I've done that, maybe I can share my experience with you guys. But so far, I still have all my Chanel pieces with me. And now I'm gonna talk about Hermes a little bit because I don't have any Hermes bags and I'm not very super experienced or knowledgeable in that area. but it does seems like investing in a Hermes Birkin or Kelly could be a potential investment opportunity or possibility. It is my personal dream to potentially own a Birkin 30 in my lifetime at some point. I want to do a little video to talk about that if you're interested. But it does seem like, because the fact that they're so hard to come by and so hard to get, the retail value is crazy high, and they do seem to sell. I feel like even on the Facebook forum that I follow, when they're posted at some crazy price, in my own opinion, because I'm not super familiar with them, they do sell. So that kind of even confirms me, for me at least, the possibility of potentially investing in it one day. But again, it's a distant dream because I don't have a boutique in my city. Anyways, I think we'll get to that at some point. And then if we talk about Dior, I think I mentioned this quite a few times now, unfortunately. Dior bags, they don't seem to sell very well on the second hand. I feel like Dior clientele is geared towards like people who are actually true fans to Dior, very loyal to Dior, and if I can just be very blunt, like I feel like their clientele are just people who actually has money, really wealthy people, that don't seem to really care about retaining the value. They just love the brand, love the design, and just seem to go forward with those. As an investment piece, they don't seem to do so well. So I love my Dior pieces, and when I purchased them, I wasn't really thinking about reselling them. So that's just my own opinion. But if you are considering investment as a big factor when you purchase these, maybe Dior might not be the right one for you, but it could be a very good brand to be buying from secondhand because of that fact. So you can find Dior pieces in almost brand new conditions on the pre-loved market for a hefty discounted price. So that could be a little tip for you. And then other brands like Gucci and Louis Vuitton and Bottega. Bottega, I would say the resale value is not super great, just because, again, it's so easy to get a dupe item for Bottega. Even if they're a signature weave look, there are just tons of fake ones on the market. So sometimes I do find it's harder to resell those ones. But again, it comes down to whether it's trendy, whether it's hard to get. Like, for example, their mini Jodis are super hard to get now. If you were to resell those, you might be able to get your money back or make a tiny profit. But generally speaking, those are the brands are people not searching for big time. Gucci is actually not bad. They've been doing really well. Overall, they are a very trendy brand. Their trendy pieces can be sold very well. But I would just say, in generally speaking, to make money of those or to use the Gucci items as investment, I would caution that. And again, for me, I do have tons of product pieces, but they don't sell very well. Like even if they are the classic lines, I think it comes down to supply and demand and what people are searching for when they are thinking about buying luxury. So have certain expectations before you make purchase. Why don't you just go on some website and search for the price at the second-hand market? That will give you a very good sense of the current situation. But again, things change all the time. So a case in point, for example, the Dior saddlebag, even though I said they don't have a really good resale value, but when the trend came back, the vintage pieces went like 5 times the price. And some people were letting their vintage saddlebag go for like $200, and then it seems like overnight they become like $2,000. So that's just my point about trend is something really hard to predict. At the end of the day, I think you have to spend the money on pieces that you love and you're gonna love for a long time. So even if you can't resell, make sure that you still love the piece and can make use of it, because at the end of the day, that's what it all matter. And personally, my opinion is, you definitely buy these bags to enjoy and not to just let them sit and hoping to make money off them one day. So I personally do, now I've learned that too over time too. I think I'm gonna try to limit my collection to, you know, just 20 bags and only spend on things I truly, truly love and know that I will be able to enjoy, even though, you know, even if it's no longer the trend. So, yeah, I think that covers pretty much all. It's sort of a chatty long video. I do apologize for that, but again, I love to share my thoughts with you, and please let me know what you think. Talk to you guys soon. Bye.